My book, Happy Campers, 9 Summer Camp Secrets for Raising Kids Who Become Thriving Adults, is not just the story of my own camp, but is the story of many camps all over the world who are promoting the social and emotional growth of kids through intentional strategies. This bonus episode is a recording of one of my Happy Campers interviews with a camp director from one of the day and resident camps who were in my series that was originally aired on Facebook Live and is also available in video form on my website at sunshine-parenting.com. Enjoy this conversation with a camp director who runs an amazing program. Welcome to this Happy Campers interview. Today, I'm talking with Tom Holland from Wilderness Adventures. And if you've been following this series, I've been talking with camp directors from day and resident camps all around the United States, specifically about the intentional ways that at quality summer camps, we're working on building kids' character traits and social emotional skills. And Tom and Wilderness Adventures are no exception in being a phenomenal program where kids are really growing and changing over their time at camp. So welcome, Tom, to the Happy Campers interview series.
Audrey, I am so excited to be here.
Really happy to have you. Tom, you have a really great background with both youth development and with camp. So why don't you talk a little bit about where you came from, what you're all about?
Sure. Well, I'm from Central Illinois, and when I was 15 or 16 years old, I received a catalog in the mail from Wilderness Adventures. So I saw this, the catalog has all of our offerings, and we have programs all over the world. But at that point, I was just drawn to the concept of backpacking in the mountains. So I went to my parents and I said, I'd love to do this. And I ended up going on a 4-week adventure in the Tetons, which was truly life-changing. And when I turned, after that program, I got to college and I called the ownership at Wilderness Adventures and I said, okay, in the very camp counselor style, I was like, what do I need to do to make myself a great candidate for your program? And they said, you're a little too young to work for us now, but we recommend you work as a summer camp counselor. And that was pre-internet, Audrey. But they, so I said, I don't know anything about summer camps. Where do I go? And they said, well, we recommend this program based out of Jackson Hole, Wyoming, called Teton Valley Ranch Camp. So when I was 19, I started working at Teton Valley Ranch as a summer camp counselor. From there, I got my degree in education all the while. I think I was doing it, Audrey. I got my degree in education so I could figure out a life where I could keep coming back to camp and working in this industry. So I taught high school while working as a backpacking guide for Teton Valley Ranch. And eventually they invited me to be on the full-time staff, which was a dream come true, moving from St. Louis, Missouri to Jackson Hole to work on that program. And then Catherine and I, my wife and I, assumed the directorship of Teton Valley Ranch, a role that we held for 7 years. And from there, I had the unique opportunity of going to work for the American Camp Association. So I served as the Chief Foundation Officer first for the American Camp Association, and then I had this amazing opportunity to serve as the CEO of the American Camp Association, which really gave me a platform to share my love of the camping industry with audiences around the world. But it was during that time, Audrey, that a dream come true for us camp professionals came through when Mike and Helen Cottingham, who were the founders and owners of Wilderness Adventures, and who I had remained friends with since I was 16, they called and they said that they were looking to transition after 42 years. And they thought that Catherine and I would be a great fit to take over the company. So the adventure continued. We moved from Indianapolis back to Jackson, and now we're in our 4th year of ownership.
That is awesome. So actually, you never worked as a counselor at Wilderness Adventures. Did you just end up staying at Teton Valley all those interim years?
That is totally the truth. I never worked at Wilderness Adventures. And now we actually have instituted a program for 19-year-olds for all those people, Audrey, who may be like, what do I need to do? We now have a program for them here, so we don't send them off to another program for 15 years.
Well, that's what I was just thinking. They should have snagged you right then.
Yeah, right. But it's been to be honest with you, I have, we have a day camp now, but I live the residential camp life at Teton Valley Ranch Camp, and we're a trip and travel program. So we have programs all over the world. So I feel like I've had my hand in just about every little nook of the summer camp industry.
Yeah, well, you really are. I mean, you're a voice and you have a great reputation in the whole camp industry. And you've done a lot of writing about very much what we're all doing at our camps and the intentionality that is behind our programs, and that we're a whole lot more than just a couple weeks of fun for kids in the summer. So you are a true voice for the camp industry right now. I
appreciate that. I think it's something I always talk about with our staff is there's this peak of energy that kids leave each summer with. And we try to be a voice throughout the rest of the year too, so that peak doesn't subside. And I think that's important to be that source of thoughtfulness and energy and that spirit that from the Gold Arrow yourself, that spirit that we want them to carry into the rest of their year and their lives. So we love writing about those topics.
Awesome. Okay, well, we'll for sure put links to everything, both your blog and your website and everything, so that people can find where you are and all of your work. And I think there's even some videos from ACA that I've found of you as well.
There are some fun videos. Don't hold those against me, all right?
No, those are good. Okay, so just out of curiosity, what did you teach when you taught high school? What subject?
I taught American government and U.S. history. And incidentally, when I went back to my own high school, I started the Wilderness Adventures Club. And then when I went and taught at Kirkwood High School in St. Louis, Missouri, I again started kind of an outing club called the Wilderness Adventure Club. And that was kind of my foray into traveling, because I really believed, I think, and I was successful in the classroom with students because what I was doing was making campfire come alive in the classroom. I really believe that learning can be fun. And so I was always trying to take those components of camp and put them in the classroom.
That's amazing. I really think that all teachers should have at least a summer as a camp counselor, because so many of the connection skills and the fun skills that we train our staff on at camp are very useful in the classroom. I don't know. I did a podcast episode, I think, with my daughter, who's a high school English teacher.
Right, yeah.
And she basically has said she's doing it, she's killing it in the classroom with her kids, but mostly because the kids feel like she cares about them. She's getting to know them. They're hanging out with her before and after school. So they're more open to learning from her, to getting her book recommendations because of her relationship with them, which she didn't learn about that in her teaching credential program. She learned about it at camp.
No, I agree. I remember once as a teacher, the principal came to me and said, "What are you doing during the lunch hour? Because you have 30 kids that are coming to do their homework in your classroom. What's happening?" And I was like, I think we're creating a space where learning is fun and the kids are feeling connected. And he asked me, he's like, what course did you learn that from in school? And I was like, actually, it's just a summer camp. That's where I learned it. So I don't disagree with you one bit that our teachers could use a little bit more summer camp every now and then in their classroom.
Sure. Okay, well, let's talk about Wilderness Adventures. You have such an amazing program. Why don't you talk about, you've mentioned a little bit, it's a trip program, but what are your ages, sessions? Where do the kids go? Everything.
So we do have a day camp program in Jackson, and we're based in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, an amazing destination. And really, that destination has always been the headquarters for Wilderness Adventures because of that strong connection to the outdoor space, to national forests and national parks. So we're here in Jackson. We offer that day camp program, and that starts for kids coming out of kindergarten and goes through 5th grade. And then our traditional program that's been around since 1973, that is within the industry, we call ourselves kind of the trip and travel portion of the summer camp industry, which means that there is not necessarily a cabin that kids are going back to at night. Our whole experience is happening in tents, where kids are in small groups. That 10 to 12 number is kind of right where our wheelhouse is. And our age group, our youngest kids are in 4th grade. We have a week-long program for 4th graders. And then 5th graders start going on 2-week programs. They can go on 2-week and 3-week programs as 5th and 6th graders. And then we go all the way up through 18 years old. So the key aspect, there's two real elements that are critical to the Wilderness Adventures experience. One is this wilderness aspect. Mike and Helen were the founders of this program. In 1973, they took kids in a van and went around to all these national parks. We have about 30 federal permits to go to these wild spaces, from Hawaii to Alaska to the Intermountain West, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, and we go to these special spots. We also have international destinations that we go to as well, and they have to have an iconic outdoor theme to them. So it's challenge based in the outdoors with a small group. And that's kind of our piece of the puzzle that's important to us, because we believe that in that 10 to 12 kid realm, there can be amazing positive growth when kids are put to the test through the challenge that is the outdoors. That's kind of the classroom setting that we utilize.
So with the, if you had a group of 10 to 12, like what would the age range be on, say, one of the trips that's like a 3-week trip? Give an example trip, like, I don't know, somewhere in Alaska or something. What would the age group be?
Perfect. So so all of our trips are based along similar ages. So our 5th and 6th graders together, our 7th through 9th graders together, and then our 9th through 12th. And within the 9th through 12th, we also have some, occasionally we divide up the groups in 11th and 12th and 9th and 10th if the age ranges are going that way. So if, let's say you're going to our Alaska Southeast program, a program that is based on this awesome opportunity of sea kayaking around Chichikov Island in Alaska, doing some ice climbing up there. Those are some of the activities that the participants, the campers, will participate in. And the age range will be probably 10th, 11th, and 12th graders on that. So really, that age group will be something similar. There won't be a wide variety of kids over various ages.
And then talk about your leadership. Like, how many leaders would be on a trip like that? And what are they trained to facilitate with these kids?
Yeah. So when I was when I was leading the residential program at Teton Valley Ranch Camp, our youngest staff were coming to us as 18 years old. So it was, and we were keeping staff, through their whole college career. It's a little bit of a different animal here at Wilderness Adventures, because you have to be 21 to be a leader with us. And so most of our leaders have been leaders for other organizations, been in the camp world, and they've come to us kind of looking to build on their outdoor experience. Getting a job with us is not so easy. I mean, we get a lot of applicants because not only are our leaders getting paid, but they're getting these amazing trips to wild destinations around the planet. Mm-hmm. So Catherine and I, and that's my wife, we take it very personally, as I'm sure you and Steve do at Gold Arrow. Who is the leaders that we're putting in the field with these kids? I think about it so much because I remember Gates and Dave and Sarah and Megan. These were my leaders, right? And I hung on their every word. And now I know that they not only were taught how to be teachers, right? Because that's a key part of what we do, but they also were doing the things, risk mitigation and safety procedures and stuff like that. But they were people that not only inspired me in moments where I needed to take my own leadership skills to the next level, but they also, challenged me when I needed kind of a kick in the butt sometimes, right? To open myself to the opportunity of growth that I didn't know was inside of me. And now I know that formula, Audrey, which is so awesome to see behind, back in the kitchen of the restaurant, right? To see how that happens. But back then, I just thought they were, my idols.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what trip did you go on, just out of curiosity, when you were 15?
Yeah, I went on a trip called the Grand Teton trip.
Okay, that's right. You said that. Okay.
Still exists. And so a formula that we use, we usually have 2 or 3 components of wilderness travel that would make up a trip. For me, it was backpacking through the Wind River Range, which was an amazing experience. Then we canoed through Yellowstone, also pretty profound because you see geysers in new ways. We did another backpacking trip right before we went for the summit of the Grand Teton, which, that experience in and of itself was one of my biggest growth opportunities as a child. In the camping world, we do so much that involves the debrief, right? And every day through that challenge, right? Which I've climbed the Grand now a few times since that experience, and it's still hard, right? But as a 16-year-old, that mountain was huge. And every day we talked about our own skills as a member of the team, and our team together. And then, the skills that we had that we were going to take back to school and our home life and things like that on every single aspect, not just the pinnacle moment. Yeah. Not just the moment we were on top. That actually, when I look back on it, was the least important part of the whole journey.
Right. Well, I love that you're talking, that'll segue into talking about kind of the deeper training and skills that you're working on building in kids. And I think you already sort of touched on it for yourself in that talking about what are you doing now that you're going to take home? What are the skills you're learning? What are the things you're learning about yourself? So why don't you talk a little bit about what you hear from your past participants and from their parents about the changes that occur and the growth that occurs because of participating in wilderness adventures?
Sure. It's funny, Audrey, the number one thing that we get immediately right after a session, right? So we'll have multiple sessions throughout the summer, but right after a session, when our campers go home, we get these emails being like, is it normal that my child is wanting to sleep in the backyard in their sleeping bag? Right? Is it normal that they are wanting to use iodine to iodize the water and show us these things? And, I wrote a piece on this for our families about re-entry into the world. And it's very similar to the summer camp experience. Mm-hmm. You come home with this profound experience and the parents are hanging there saying, and we as parents, what we want to know? We want to know, did it work, right? We want to know, was this impactful? And so many parents say, my kid is sun-kissed and happy and wanting to sleep in their sleeping bag, but I don't know what does this all translate to, right? And I can say to parents just as very simply, it translates to success, and you did the right thing when those are the traits that your child is coming home with. But when we came to Wilderness Adventures, Catherine and I noticed that we really wanted our students to be able to articulate a little bit better than they were the impacts, the short-term impacts and the long-term impacts. And that's, I would say that's from my teaching background, my degree in education. But I do think it's also from my mom being like, what happened to you out there, right? She wanted to know some of that information. So what we do here is we have taken, we've been proactive about creating what we call our curriculum. I use that in quotes because when I say it in front of our campers, they don't like to hear that word, right? Because it's summer camp, right? But our curriculum is really based on three things. Number one, it is based on knowledge of what's around them. This is learning that's happening. When you go to Old Faithful in Yellowstone, or you go to some wild places, the glaciers in Alaska, or you go to the volcanoes in Volcanoes National Park in Hawaii, we want you to be learning about what's going on around you. When you go to Ecuador or Galapagos, right, so much learning can happen. So there's a component of learning that is just the sheer kind of book knowledge that you're taking in on this experience. The second part is the learning that's happening from the teamwork skills that students are coming away with. Students will have to do kind of an analysis, and they're all age appropriate. So a 7th grade analysis is going to be a little bit different than what a 12th grader is doing. But they are doing an analysis of their own strengths as a member of a team. Do they step up to the plate when there's a moment for them with their skill sets that they're required to lead? Or do they back off during those moments? Do they know how to be a good follower? Because there's moments in life that we need to have both of those skills. Mm-hmm. The final part is that aspect of their own personal self-confidence and their own growth. We want every one of our students walking away with a sense of accomplishment, not only from the trail, right? But from making new friends, from taking on new challenges, for doing their laundry by themselves, right? Because that's going to be something they do, from making dinner. And so we track these things and we highlight them in a debrief on a daily basis. And that piece is the piece that our students walk away with the most. And they say, I came away with so many more things to add to my it's almost an accomplishment resume that I can pull upon when I'm back at school or being challenged in college or even later on in life. I've pulled those from those things, and they say, I have these things that give me the confidence to take on new challenges. Finally, there's this like very simple component to what we do. There's this lofty stuff. Our kids have fun, though. We wouldn't be in business, right, in the summer months if kids didn't walk away saying this was a fun experience and I made new friends. And that's important to us, Audrey, is that it's not just the whitewater rafting that's fun, but it's the dance parties we have outside of vans. It's the whipped cream that's on top of the ice cream at dessert. It's those friends that they walk away from having this really unique experience that they can be friends with and support throughout their next years in high school too. So it's kind of a long answer, but
oh my gosh, so great! I bet they're so bonded. If you're out there in the wilderness together, just without the distractions of home and technology, I bet they're the best of friends.
They are. And that's a key component, is the fact that we oftentimes say we're relationship based without the device, right? And we talk to our students and we say, obviously you and I know the power of technology. We are communicating via this world right now, like it's powerful. But I do think you and I have, and many parents today, have an advantage where we remember a world that existed without devices, so we know what balance feels like. And I am a strong believer in providing our kids with the opportunity to feel a little bit of that balance too, by going to places where it's not even an option in Yellowstone if you can have a phone, because they don't work, right? So it's really great for us, and we have kids unplug, and many are nervous about that process. But we oftentimes tell them in leadership, the two things that will carry you are your head and your heart, and that has nothing to do with your phone.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, how do the parents, what do you do for parents? Because I'm guessing that if a parent's sending their child for the first time, like their fourth or fifth or sixth grader, out into the wilderness, what can they expect as a parent? Do they hear from you? Do they get an update of any kind since they're not in touch with their child?
Yeah, absolutely. We oftentimes, what we say that's really important is Catherine and I also approach this as directors from a parenting point of view. We have 4 kids ourselves. My daughter Madeline went on her first Wilderness Adventures experience last year, and I, like every other parent, Audrey, I'm the guy who runs the whole organization, right? And when she went on that plane and she had to do the connection in Chicago because she was on her way to the Adirondacks for a 5th grade program, you're still nervous, right? And I'm the guy that runs the organization. So we really actively talk about the adventure being a positive one for parents as well. And to put your trust into anyone, to send your child to them and hope for growth, be it a residential summer camp program, a day camp program, or a program like ours, takes a lot. So we really try to give our parents a lot of connection with us. In fact, we're fond of overly communicating with them to say, you're going to hear from us, and it's not always a bad thing, right? We're going to give you the updates on, your son Billy made amazing spaghetti last night, or here's where they are on the trail, or this is the piece that you should know, or here's an amazing picture. And we also provide regular updates that are kind of standard for every child and every family. But then we love to give those individualized reports with pictures and things like that to our families, because we know what sort of experiences can be, especially in the world where we always know where our kids are and what they're doing. To send your kid off, I believe, is a powerful moment for parents, and one that is necessary. Right? One that is necessary in the life of children. But we know that it's tough. And so we want to give that attention to parents.
Yeah, that's great. I don't know if you heard last week at the American Camp Association conference in Nashville, Lori Brown, who's, overseeing all the research,
right,
said that one thing that they're finding is that camp experiences not only have a profound impact on the participants, but they're positively impacting parents. And the way you were just speaking was reminding me of why that is, because for many parents, this is their first time experiencing letting their child go and have an adventure without them. And that's a lot to go through. So it's great that you're helping them through that too, and kind of assisting with that process.
And, I would say this, because to all the folks that are out there and are parents raising their kids in settings like I do in Jackson Hole, I hear often, Audrey, from folks that say, we live in these amazingly beautiful locations. Mm-hmm. Why does my child need camp? Because they experience kind of camp all around them. And I always point to a story that, I saw some folks out and they were camping, and people know that I'm the camp guy around, right? And they love to talk about summer camp with me. And they were saying just this. And then a child fell, scraped his knee, and the dad was right there to pick him up and dust him off and give him a popsicle and make sure he was okay. And 30 minutes later, we came back to the conversation. He said, now see, look at these experiences. We don't need camp. And I said, but see, at camp, your child will grow without you and they'll be just fine even after that scraped knee. And that's the key component. It's not the fact that we're all surrounded by these amazingly beautiful places. It's that our children can have time to grow with powerful, impactful, and positive role models around them, but out of the watchful eye of their parents.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you were listing the names of all your counselors from when you were a kid, I was thinking about, I can't remember where I heard it, but somebody has been talking about the importance of that third adult. So you have your parents, but there's also, sometime along the way, a teacher or a camp counselor, somebody outside of your parents who gives you that encouragement and provides that role model that really parents can't, because our kids know we're biased. We can't see our kids the way other people can, but when another adult sees your child and pours into them, and that is very powerful for our kids. And so even if it's a 20-year-old camp counselor or a 22-year-old trip leader, that is really important to our kids, to have someone outside of us who believes in them.
No, and I'll tell you what, I remember their comments so many different ways, and in my baby book, right, I still have the evaluation they sent in, that we still do the same thing, right? My mom kept those things, but I also remember the times that they corrected me when I needed correcting, mm-hmm. and it was impactful, right? It was hearing that other voice that was not my mom or my dad, who I wanted to be, right? And I remember the feeling I had in me when those moments happened, that was even more powerful than if my dad was saying, "Hey, come on, put your boots on, let's go."
Yeah. Yeah, it's really powerful. But I agree that just providing the activities or doing activities with a family is very different from experiencing them at camp with a group of friends that you've just met and leaders. It's a whole different experience. It's great when families do go backpacking or sailing and all these things as a family. That's terrific. But camp and these kind of experiences are very different.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So Tom, if someone is thinking about wilderness adventures, where do they go to find out that information? And do you still have space for this summer? What kind of programs are available still? Just talk a little bit about that, because we're still hopefully early enough for families to join you this year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are someone who is interested in a program like ours, you'd want to go to wildernessadventures.com. Okay, that's the first step. Now, here's the cool part. We really view the fact that we have programs around the planet. We have 6 different continents. We view that as an opportunity to have all these individualized camp programs. So the thing that you're going to want to look at if you are a camper yourself or you're a parent is you want to look on our website and you want to identify the age of your camper and the dates you're available, and then also the activities that might inspire your camper, right? So that being said, you can then isolate the trips that would be for you. And here's the cool part about what we do. I really view the camp training that we offer all of our staff, right? That's 17 days of staff training. We really are taking the spirit of summer camp the teaching ability, the risk mitigation, the challenge, all the trail map, that piece that I was kind of talking about, this kind of how we ignite the fire in each student. We really try to teach each and every one of our staff members that. So they're kind of like franchised as their own camp director, that they will go and be there for our students. So the step number one is to go online, check out what opportunities might be for your child, 5th grade through 12th grade, and then look at the programs. Some of our trips, Audrey, are full right now. So if you are someone who is motivated and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Get online and give us a call. And we have a team of folks called our program experts that can really help a family to identify the programs right for the student. And I would say this too, the student will have to go through an application process, which will include some references from a teacher, making sure that they want to be on this program, because with that group of 10 to 12, we want to make sure everyone is going to be participatory in this really impactful experience.
Yes. And you're not, obviously, it's not any kind of like, it's not a wilderness rehab program or anything like that. This is for basically well-adjusted kids who want to have an adventure in the outdoors.
That's exactly right. And there are great wilderness therapy programs too. And I think, and same, I think for Audrey as for myself, we're just believers in summer camp. So even if we're not the right program, we love to make a great summer camp recommendation, right? We love to, if you're looking for all boys or something, all girls, our trips are co-ed. We do have some fly fishing programs that, much to my wife's chagrin, Audrey, have tended to be all boys, right? Catherine wants to change that. But it is something that we love to make recommendations. So we oftentimes do that for our base camp families coming out of Jackson Hole. And if you're a day camper or you're a family that vacations here in Jackson, look at our day camp program. It's called Base Camp. It's a great intro to the outdoors for kids, really high-spirited energy at Snow King Mountain.
And is that, if you're how long are those sessions? Because if someone was just visiting Jackson, how long is your day camp program there?
Our day camp is a week-long session from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And it is the total spirit. Audrey, when I traveled the country and I saw these camp programs in action, I was always thinking, what are the elements that I would put into a day camp program? And it really is kind of that dream come true for Catherine and I. And our children attended. It's super fun. We start with the day with songs, we end with songs, and then all in between is the adventure of being outside.
And that's also on the same website. I put a link to wildernessadventures.com. Is Base Camp also on that same website? It
is. It's right on that same website.
Okay. And then I'm putting your phone number, which is 1-307-733-2122. And that's a number that people can call to talk to one of your team members. And I think I remember from your website, isn't there a really cool kind of find a program thing?
Yeah, that's a searchable tool. So you'll put in the dates that you're available, and then the activities that your child's looking for, the age range, and we will churn out the options for you.
That is amazing. Okay, well, Tom, thank you so much for being on. I hope many new families discover Wilderness Adventures or Base Camp through this video. And I look forward to seeing more of your fabulous pictures and adventures from all that you're doing with kids.
Thanks so much, Audrey. This was super fun.
Thank you so much for joining me for this Happy Campers interview bonus podcast episode. If you're interested in learning more about how you can bring home some of the magic of summer camp, I'd love for you to pick up a copy of my book, Happy Campers, 9 Summer Camp Secrets for Raising Kids Who Become Thriving Adults. It's available for pre-order now and comes out on May 7th. And you can find more information about it on my website by going to happycampersbook.com. To thank you for pre-ordering the book, I have a couple of fun freebies. The first of which is the first chapter, Camp Secret Number 1, Connection Comes First. I'll also send you an invitation to join my private Facebook group that's called the Happy Campers Book Club, where we'll be sharing resources, videos, and conversation about raising kids who become thriving adults. To access these freebies, simply pre-order your copy of the book and then fill out the form at happycampersbook.com. Together, we can spread the happiness of summer camp to the whole world.